Is Japan investable? In 1980, 7 of the largest banks in the world were Japanese banks. The National Palace in Japan was worth more than the assets of California. Sony was the biggest company in the world by leaps and bounds. And the Japanese economy was expected to pass the United States economy at some point in time. But by 2025, Japan had the 4th largest economy. What happened? Well, first let's talk about what is national debt. It's the total sum of money in which a country, Japan, owes. Typically, national debt is never retired. But if you're going to have debt, you got to pay it. And that's called debt services. Think of it as the interest on your credit card. The total amount of principal that you owe and the interest payments. The Japanese pay for that by selling more bonds. And bonds fluctuate based upon interest rates. This creates a constant need to refinance the debt at lower rates. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. But let's continue. After Japan pays all its debt, which is debt services, it now has money for discretionary spending. It's like you, after you pay your rent and your bills and everything, the money you have to go to party with. The budget for Japan is 115 trillion yen, or about 770 billion US dollars. That is fairly a good budget. The thing that's beneficial to Japan is that most of the Japanese debt is owned by Japanese citizens. That's very unusual for a country. That's one reason why Japan has been able to maintain itself. We talk about how successful a country is when we measure something called gross domestic product. And gross domestic product is the total amount of goods and services sold as fixed goods throughout the world. Now, if you look going back again to Japan and its debt, I'm going to give you an idea on how much of the debt is against, in other words, what percentage of the debt is against their gross domestic product. China has 77%, which is fairly low. The United States is 123%, but Japan is 263%. That is one of the highest ratios of debt to GDP of any of the G3 nations. And it's a real problem. One, in Japan, they have a problem in population growth. There aren't enough people being born to work to take care of those who are retiring or elderly. Also, Japan is not known for immigration. So the question is, where do you get these workers from to pay the debt when people aren't having children and your country doesn't have a welcoming immigrant policy? That puts Japan in a very, very, very bad situation. If you think about it, NVIDIA as a company is bigger than every company in Japan combined. So is Apple. So is Microsoft. I would have to just say to you, this is probably not an investable country in the short term. This has been going on since the lost decades of the 1990s. Japan has never gotten out of this. So I would have to say to you that I would say it's uninvestable. I'd like to thank you for your time. Please give me a thumbs up and have a great day.